internet governance. So tell us, what exactly do you do at the Web Foundation?
That's a great question. At the moment, if I give you my car, it reads Director of Policy. But that is for the car. For you who are watching, who are listening, the way I explain my work is very simple. I bring value to the World Wide Web to the extent that when you go offline, you will miss me. So my job is to extend the opportunities, the happiness, the wealth, the freedom that the internet brings to you, so that when you don't have it, you miss it. That's my job.
Wow, that sounds like a very fun job.
It is actually.
Right. So now what I want us to go into is your involvement with the West Africa IGF. We know that this is the first time in the Gambia we're holding this forum, and we just rounded up with a fantastic communique, I believe. It was very well attended. We had the representation from all the ECOWAS countries. And tell me, how did your journey start with the West Africa IGF up to where we are today? Because I know you were one of the engineers and the kickstarters of this initiative.
Okay, I can say that I have attended all of West Africa IGF.
And this is the 11th one?
Yes. It's been on for 12 years now. It was only 2015 we did not have a West Africa IGF, and it was because of Ebola. So I have been one of those Africans that were there even before the IGF was born. I participated in the World Summit on Information Society, and we came home. We organized ourselves, something that we used to call Africans who were engaged in the internet governance process. And then we came home to West Africa, West Africans who were engaged. So there were people who were older than myself. So when you have uncles and aunties, you can't say no. They send you to do this, they send you to do that. So first of all, I ran errands for people. And because I could speak French and English, I helped in translation. I did the groundwork. And then I got elected into the board of Free Software and Open Source Foundation.
FOSFA.
So I became FOSFA chair. And I want to point out something very important, Biran. When you do a good job, your legacy will be there. Partly because I was in FOSFA, partly because we had built the legitimacy of FOSFA. Other stakeholders trusted my organization and my leadership to be the host organization for West Africa IGF. That means that at my small age, someone who started off as an errands girl, I now have to manage the budget. I now have to write countries. I now have to build capacity. And so the first funding we got from Osiwa and other organizations, I drafted a strategy paper. I presented it to the stakeholders. I said, we can't do this as a meeting. We want to appoint focal points. So we were looking to train, raise, and maintain champions across the countries. And then we have to give the support to these champions to be able to raise something in their own countries. So between the 3rd and I think the 8th, about 5 years consecutively, I was the convener of West Africa IGF. It was a learning process for me. I did not make any money from it. I actually spent my own money from it. But when I sit back today and look at where we've come, when we went knocking on ECOWAS door and says, this should actually be part of what you're doing within your mandate. Why don't you come here? They said we would come first and observe. So I think in 2008, when we held one of our events, ECOWAS came and observed me. They observed us. They wanted to know if we had grown enough for them to be able to associate their international image. And they tested us, they tried us. It appeared that we passed the exam, and they associated with us. And after 3 years, they said it's grown enough to be headquartered at the ECOWAS Commission. That has been my journey so far. I will plead that I will now retire. Since that,
not yet.
Since I have given birth to children and great hands, I think I deserve a retirement at this time.
You know, when I first heard about you, it was actually at an ICANN forum. And I saw you from afar, and I kept hearing all these wonderful things that you're doing in Africa. And I said, I want to be that woman in a few years. So we still have a lot to learn from you. So we're not done with you just yet, Nana. So I think one last thing that I want to share with our audience, because this is a very short clip. I want you to, what parting message do you have for our youth? I know that they were very involved in this session today and yesterday, and they came up to the podium and asked a few questions. So with regards to the internet governance space, we don't have enough young people. When I go to these meetings, I don't see a lot of them. So how do you, what would you share with them when it comes to parting words?
Right. This is the 30th year of the World Wide Web. So this is the 30th anniversary of the World Wide Web. I work with the World Wide Web Foundation, which was created by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web itself. The first thing I have to say to young people is that many of those who have created anything that you find today in the internet and the technology world did it when they were young. I take that again. If anything was created, most of the things that were created in the technology world were done so by young people. You're taking Facebook, you're taking Apple, you're taking Microsoft, you're taking all of those spaces. They are being created. They were all created by young people. So this is your time for innovation. This is your time for creation. During the 30th anniversary tour of the World Wide Web's founding director, he did a tour across the world, beginning in Europe and ended in Lagos, Nigeria. He went to a place where young girls are learning to code. And he wrote something on the wall, and that is also the same message that I will give to you. He says, remember, the only limitation you have to what you can do with a computer is your imagination. Your imagination is the only limitation you have to what you can do with a computer. So you can sit here and choose to complain, and choose to say how things are not working well, choose to say how the government is this, how the country is that. You are free to do that. You are also free to say, this is how I want my country to run, this is how I want things to be, this is how I'm going to contribute to it, I'm going to give it a shot. I may succeed, I may not succeed, but I'm going to give it a shot anyhow, and do that. Once again, the only limitation to what you can accomplish with technology is your imagination. If you can imagine it, you can do it. 50 years ago, people were dreaming of tiny handheld devices that will connect us to each other across the world, and that will allow us to talk, that would allow us to make phone calls, to send videos, images, and those people were treated as crazy people in those days. And today, you have an iPhone, you have an Android phone. It's because somebody somewhere had an imagination. What is your imagination? What do you want the Gambia to be in 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5 years? You are only limited by your imagination. Now, one last thing I have to tell you. I think you've heard it somewhere. The world will stand aside and let a young man pass who knows where he's going. I will retake that.
Wow.
If a young man or a young woman knows where he's going, the whole world will stand aside and let him or her pass. If they are not standing aside for you, it's probably because you don't know where you're going. But once you decide on where you're going and how to get there, the whole of the universe will conspire for you to get there. Try it and let me know online if that works for you.
Wow, thank you, Nena Nwankama from the World Wide Web Foundation. Those were very deep words. Thank you for sharing with us today and for taking out this time at the West Africa IGF. If you missed it, you missed a fantastic event. Thank you, and
Thank you for
we will
having
see
me.
you around online.
Cheers.